Good evening and good night, and welcome to the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. It is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. My name is David, aka Kimba, aka Christian. Bingy Soup is still on special assignment. Welcome to the It's Your Perspective Talk Show podcast every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. AST. We're coming to you live from the beautiful island of St. Croix, Virgin Islands. What else we got? We're streaming live via Facebook and YouTube via using StreamYard.com. StreamYard is catching on. I see a lot of much bigger podcasts using StreamYard. It's very easy to use, so that's what I use. I've been using it now since COVID, pretty much. It works well, and they're always improving it. Every week, there's just new features and new things or easier way to do things. So check into StreamYard.com if you want to get into becoming a podcaster. Our phone line is kaput tonight, so we can't get any phone calls coming in. But we do have a special guest in the studio tonight. He's a returning guest. He's been on the show maybe once or twice in the past. I want to welcome him back. There he is. What's up? Khadijo Kwabena.
Yes. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for tapping in with us here. Really appreciate that. As I was saying before we went live here, I follow your page, and I've always just had a liking to what you're doing with the music. You're making new music, and you're involved in the whole music industry. You have your lane. Let me just put it that way. You have your lane, and I appreciate the fact that you're working your lane and doing it to the best of your ability. But Khadijo is a teacher at one of the local high schools in St. Croix. He's also a musician himself. He'll talk about all the instruments that he can play. And then he's also director of Khadijo Music LLC. And I don't know if there's something new that we created a little kind of company kind of thing there.
Right.
To keep your music. So let's get into a little bit as a teacher. Talk a little bit about what's happening with you there.
So, as a teacher, I'm a music teacher, and I teach everything from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, and maybe I can teach on the college level. I haven't tried that yet, but I've taught all grades from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. Right now, I am a high school music teacher, and in that capacity, I teach general music and music appreciation. And most recently, I have ventured into mallet percussion music. And mallet percussion music, for those who don't know, it's playing instruments like the xylophone, the vibraphone, anything of that nature that requires you to hit or strike on a bar for this particular instrument. So it's right now I have 3 classes, and each class approximately about 10 people, 10, 11 people. And I try to get them to understand that, percussion music it's out there. It's been out there, but it's just that they're not exposed to it as much, because the youngsters that I teach, which are between the ages of 14 and 16, around that time age, they're more geared towards American pop music, hip hop, R&B. And so, what they grew up listening is totally, obviously going to be different from what I grew up listening to. But it's to get them to understand something besides what they know. And I think that's the whole aspect of learning, to teach you something besides what you know. Because if you don't know, you can't grow. And, someone told me that, and I said, yeah, if you don't know, you can't grow. And it is a true thing. So that's what I am doing. On the music appreciation side, is sort of helping them to understand music cultures outside of the American scene or even the Caribbean. And not much, it's embarrassing to say, but we're working on it. Um, I gave them a sort of like a open quiz, and I told them, list all the Caribbean countries. Since you live in this region of the world, list all the Caribbean countries that you know.
Mm.
And they struggled. They struggled. Yeah, they know where they live. Some of them even forgot St. Croix to put on the list. St.
Mm.
Croix. Or they put Virgin Islands, and yeah, that's a but I wanted them to list out everything. So say for instance the British Virgin Islands, they will just put BVI, but they
Mm.
don't know the separate entities of the BVI and so on and so forth. um, some of them even forgot they know of twin nations like Trinidad and Tobago,
There you go.
but they know Trinidad. They don't know too much about Tobago because it's not. And that's something that we need to. They know about St. Kitts, but they don't know about Nevis. They know about
Yes.
Puerto Rico, but they don't know about Vieques.
It
They
is.
know about Grenada, but they don't know about the Grenadines.
Indeed.
And stuff like that. I mean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's the whole point. If you live in this region of the world, we're not saying that you must know everything, but if you live in this region of the world, my goodness, take more, how you say, interest in it, so that when you do leave these shores, and most of them are eager to go off to the States and
Mm.
live,
Let me
it's,
let me ask you a question. You mentioned that some of the high school kids are more into R&B and hip hop, but I
mhm,
would think that if you were born and raised, let's say St. Croix,
mhm.
that your music of choice might not be that, but it might be the local music like the soca, that kind of music. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
That you would think that that's what it is, but because of the word globalizations and with this thing called technology and using phone, they're more tuned in to their phone, and their phone is not giving them so much soca, reggae, calypso, or zouk,
Mm,
or whatever it is. It's
mm,
giving them more of that American thing. Like TikTok is not
yeah.
geared towards a lot of Caribbean
Music. Yeah.
genres.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
going to give them more of the outside thing. So, of course, their mind is going to be totally filled with that.
Mm,
But here's what I'm saying, um, do yourself a favor and learn more about your culture so that when you get into someone else's culture and they start telling you about your culture, you don't look so dumbfounded or shocked. Like,
mm,
really? That's what happened on this island? And they're like, I thought you knew you're from the Caribbean. And that's the shocking thing about,
yeah.
someone telling you about your culture and you don't even know.
Mm,
So that that's what we're trying to do with the music appreciation and music in
mm.
cultures and stuff like that.
I-
Um,
is your
Go ahead.
class is your class a required class for graduation, or is it
Yeah,
like an
you
elective?
need a music credit. Some students don't have it because it's based upon a tracking system. Some students don't need music, some need it. But I feel that most of everybody should take a music class because listen, from before you were born, you heard your mother singing.
Mm,
That's music,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know and even at your funeral, guess what's going on?
Yeah.
Music, right? So music has been with you before you came out.
Mm,
You should welcome your new best friend, music. But
mm,
we tend to absorb it in different ways. Some of us, like myself, are real high professionals about it, and some others are just spectators about it. They like it, but they don't want to get too deep. And some of us treat music like it's how you say, elevator music.
mm.
You're going up to the 16th floor, so you're hearing songs, but you're not really paying attention to it.
Attention to it.
And
Yeah.
right, and some of us just do it like that. But we use music almost in every aspect of our lives. So
Mm,
for some of us, I don't understand why we have this angst towards it.
yeah.
But
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you went to college to learn music, right?
Right. I started off at Berkeley College of Music, and then, that was my first introduction into music from the American standpoint of view.
Mm.
Because, to get into these specialty schools, you can't fake it till you make it. You got to get in there solid,
Okay.
solid, because it's so much competition in these music, and it's the same thing with liberal arts universities and colleges. There's a lot of competition. Now, here's the thing. We as Caribbean people and maybe outsiders, because Americans, they feel they got it all, and they're exposed to all of it,
Mhm.
But as Caribbean people, we're not exposed to all of it. So we have to sort of be humble and be willing to open up our minds and our ears and our eyes and keep our lips closed and just watch and observe. And,
Mhm.
once you're able to be confident in whatever it is that you want to say, then you can speak. But, as Caribbean, and I think that's in everything, unless, you were exposed in your
Mhm.
career that you choose much earlier before you went into college. Music is a type of thing. If you're going to get real serious about it, you should have been starting when you were 10.
Mhm.
Of course, we got people starting at 2 and 5 and all that foolishness. But
Yeah. Is
um,
that the case with you? You started when you were that young?
I started at 5.
Okay.
Now that that grew and grew and grew before I left elementary school, that level, I knew I wanted to be a musician. Not
Mhm.
necessarily a teacher, but a musician. By the time I finished high school, I knew it was going to be settled somewhere in between because, there's many tracks and levels of being a musician. And I am the one of those musicians that don't want to be uncomfortable in my life, meaning I'm gigging every night, sleeping on somebody's couch, don't have a car, don't have an apartment, but I hang out with this guy. I'm not one of those type of musicians. I'm one of those type of musicians that likes comfort. And I
Mhm.
will admit to that. I love comfort. So therefore, I've got to be able to take this gift and make something wholesome of it so that I am not struggling and
Mhm.
trying to figure out, well, do I really want to do this? Do I really? I just have to make it. And
Mhm.
that's that's been my whole mantra for all my life. You have to, whatever it is that you're given, make something of it, and make
Mhm.
something of it that you're not struggling with it. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. And as far as the students go, I mean, you said the class size is 10, 11. And
Mhm.
so, like music appreciation, I mean, what are you teaching them? You
Well,
know,
like within music appreciation, it's sort of three-part dimensional. They're learning about music culture from different places, and Europe, Asia, Africa, Central America, South America, and American. It's a little bit of each because I can't do everything, but
mm,
it's a little bit of each. Particularly, I stress on Central America and South America and West Africa. And
okay.
because we are of African descent. So why shouldn't you learn about, your heritage?
Mm,
I get pushback. I do get pushback. I'm going to be honest because they're like, "Why we need to know that we're not African?" But oh boy, that's the ignorance that's coming out, and I know if I can pull it out, I can put
yeah.
intellectual stuff in. So
Okay.
that's where. And then the other part of it is understanding the theoretical aspect of music, which people tend to shy away from because they don't understand. Well, you have to understand the notes and the theory and how this is done and this is done, and they tend to understand it from just the feel of it, but they don't understand. So I come down to their level because that's what you have to do. You come down to their level and say, okay, let's say, for instance, you like to listen to hip hop music. Do you know that hip hop producers have to have an understanding of beat, rhythm, the syntax of words, and all that
Yeah.
stuff in order for you to even be successful at delivering your rhymes. You have to know things. And yeah, the theoretical knowledge of pick up a dictionary or thesaurus might help you. You may not know everything about the music theory part, but you still got to have an understanding of beat, rhythm, timbre, sound, all of those things you still have to have. So there goes the technical part of it. And it isn't until they are surrounded by people who are really serious about it, then they start to take it seriously. I have a student, a past student right now. He's at what's that school? Full Sail, and he plays the bass. And it's funny. He sent me. He's in theory class, and he sent me a video of what the professor was talking about that I sort of exposed them to, and he's like, look at how this is coming back to haunt me again. And I say, it's not on you, it's making you a better bass player, because if you know your bass really well, then you can have a singer and she's like, that's too high or that's too low. And if you don't have some idea of how to bring the music down so that she could sing to that level, then why are you playing this instrument in the first place? So he understands it now. He understands it now. But back then, he didn't think it was important to know. But now he understands it because, it's going to be his bread and butter.
Yeah, well, kudos to him for recognizing, that something that you talked about in high school, and his college professor now was talking about it too.
Right.
But let me ask you this: so, if someone in your class wants to play the clarinet or learn the clarinet, can you help them with that, or how do you go about that?
Well, what I could do is help them to read the notes, because even in clarinet music, you still got to read the notes. I don't teach instrument that you blow. I mean, I play a melodica, and the melodica is more like a simple instrument that has a keyboard part to it. But as a clarinetist, you need to read the notes and be able to interpret the music, and that's half the battle. Playing is half the battle. Reading and interpreting the music is another part of the playing the music. So yes, I can get you there. I can get you there, but you still got to read the music. So you might as well just pay attention and read and get
so is reading music to play a clarinet the same as reading music to play a guitar?
Yes, as any other instrument, you just got to read, because there's music written out there for it. Even the stuff that we listen to here, and I told the students that because we listen to a modern type of calypso. I don't know if you heard of the term of it. They call it Bram, and it's what we hear. Yeah, and little do they know, you can write that music out. You can write it out on paper, and then you can, dress it up how you want it, put in different things. But they just, we're so, how to say it? We're so, we still want to get to the point of let's just do it. We don't have to worry about that part. And if you take that attitude, you're going to take it into business. You're going to take it into your family. Let's just get to the main part. But you leave a lot of the details out. And if you don't pick up those details, getting to the main part doesn't mean anything, because you didn't pick up some of those things that you needed to pick up to advance your career regardless of. So let's just say you want to be a dentist, but you don't want to know the different types of teeth in your mouth. How did you become a dentist? Right. So we have to train our youngsters to understand details are very important in learning.
So after high school, I mean, obviously you go to college, but I mean, do all your students kind of go to college?
No, not all of them are going to go. Some of them, would tell me plain out, I'm not interested in being a musician. And I said, I'm not trying to make you a musician. I'm just trying to make you aware of a better understanding of music, so that when you hear something, you're going to say, oh, that's that kind of instrument or something similar to it. You won't be so completely clueless, We love music, but we don't go too far with it. We only go to the point of a feel good thing, and once it makes me feel good or I like it to a certain extent, that's as far as I want to go. Other students now, they want to go even higher, but it's like the NBA. Only the few are chosen. It's not, you can't, the NBA doesn't take everybody.
It'll take everybody. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so let's switch gears a little bit here. So let's talk now. We talked about you being a teacher, but let's talk about you as a musician, because we know you play a lot of different types of
yeah.
instruments.
I play
So let's talk.
I play a few instruments, um, and for the most part, the ones that I focus on are the vibraphone, which most people who don't know by now will know that I am a jazz fusion vibraphonist, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. Then my principal instrument, with the one that I started when I was 5 years old, was the piano.
Mhm.
And now, my favorite in terms of percussion, it is the bata drums. And the
Mhm.
bata drums it's three drums that have their lineage in Liberia. I'm not Liberia, Nigeria, and they came over with the enslaved people and in Cuba, and then spread to Puerto Rico and most of the Latin countries, and then here we now have it in America, and I was exposed to that, in undergrad, and then that's what made me. So coming back to the vibraphone, I didn't get into the vibraphone right away because at the time when I left the island to study music, the only percussive melodic instrument at that time that I was exposed to was steel pan, and I knew
Mhm.
about it, but I didn't play it. But
Mhm.
you know, the thing about living in the United States is you're exposed to so many things, and the things that you like, you gravitate towards. So
Mhm.
I heard the vibraphone. Someone was playing it, and I was in a practice room next door practicing. I think it was a Beethoven sonata, something like that. And I needed a break because classical music is a mental thing. It will drain you, for hours because you know classical music, they write everything out. You can't just make up your stuff like jazz. Jazz, you can
Mhm.
make it up along the way, but classical, they write everything out because the music is so rigid. And I
Mhm.
needed a break. Got up, walked into the band room. Someone was playing the vibraphone. I walked over to them. I liked what I heard, and the person asked me, "Hey, do you play?" I'm like, "No, I don't play, but I would like to learn, considering the way how the vibraphone looks. It's set up similar to the piano with the black and white keys."
Mhm.
And I walked over to the marimba and I started playing that. And the marimba is one of the instruments that I do play as well. So all in all, I'd say 9 or 10, somewhere around there. But I don't play them all the time. Um, at the most, the piano is the one that's getting the most, show on in my life, and then the vibraphone, and then the bata drums. But those are the three main instruments that I am positioning myself to be known as. But it's just that the vibraphone, that's my that's my baby right there.
Yeah,
That's gonna,
that's your
yeah,
go-to
that's
instrument.
right. That's the go-to instrument for me. But the piano is sort of like the backup that's been there all the time. And the
Mhm.
bata drums is something that when I need that ethnic feel, I go to it.
Yeah.
I was playing congas and I still do play congas, but the bata drums is a special type of instrument, and you get into a transcending feel when you play these
Mhm.
instruments. But
So,
it's roughly about 9 or 10 instruments that I play.
okay. So, do you talk about your three favorite instruments in your classes? Do you have a
I
history
do
behind
talk,
it?
yeah, because the vibraphone and other mallet instruments related to the vibraphone are in the classroom, and obviously the piano is there. I've got several keyboards in there. There are some congas in there in my classroom, and I do talk about that. And in fact, I feature that into a piece that we're working on to showcase next year, for the
Mm.
school and territory wide. So yeah, those things I do talk about, but there are other instruments I also talk about as well.
Okay. So the other thing as you talk about instruments, I noticed in I guess it was maybe early this year, even last year, you were part of a trio.
Yes. The last time I was with you, we were talking about one of my singles that I was working on is called A Black Woman. And
Mm.
for everybody that don't know, it's a piece of music, extended piece of music that I composed and worked on. And I had Elise Katera and Yoshe Daniels. Elise plays the flute, Yoshe plays the saxophone and variants of the saxophone, so like soprano saxophone, tenor saxophone. Um, and I composed something, and I said, I don't want it. The thing about music is, and especially when you get into the part of creating it, you tend to do the same thing over and over, and you become, how you say, predictable.
Mm.
And that's the same thing with rappers and singers and all of that. You just, it just sort of feels like, yeah, that's the right thing to do, and you do it, and then before you know it, here you are 5, 10 albums deep, and you're doing the same thing instead of changing things up. So I said, I don't want to hear vibraphone alone and the common instruments that support the vibraphone. I want to hear something else, and that's when I employed those two people to come in and join with me. Now, obviously, that was their first time exposed to the vibraphone. So it's a matter of hearing, well, how
Mm.
do I fit within there? And by me being more, knowledgeable about what to do, I just
Mm.
tell them, hey, this is what I want and this is the sound I'm looking for. And before you know it, A Black Woman was done. And there's another part to it. It's a part two, Black Woman part two. And it has Kevin Williams, the steel pan
Mm-hmm.
it from back then. It has his part in it. So there is some instruments in there as well as the bata drums, the congas, and it's a whole polyphony of music. So I
Yeah.
urge people to check that out. It's on YouTube and it's everywhere that you could get music downloaded. So A
Okay.
Black Woman. Yeah.
Okay. But I wasn't particularly going back that far. I think I was talking about just in the last year because I think you were playing keyboards, you had somebody playing the drum, and you had somebody playing the bass, and you were kind of all over the island, and
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
last year, yeah, that was last year because nothing really happened this year other than me putting out some music. That was last year.
Okay.
Um, there were my students that started off with me. I developed them so good that I said, you know what, guys, let's take that chance and go out there and play for the public. And they were
Mm-hmm.
a bit shy at first, but they said, you know what, let's do it. We feel we know what we need to know. And our first gig for them was at, oh gosh, the Reformed Church up on that hill.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah,
I know exactly.
the St. Paul Reformed Church. And they did
Yes.
well. And I was surprised, they didn't, freeze up or anything. And they did exactly what I told them to do. And they
Mm.
played all the right notes, all the right feel. Everything was great. And from that point, we set out to do it for real in the
Yeah.
public. And we set up residency at Social Beer Garden right here in
Yes.
Christian's Bed.
Christian Town.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some videos up there of me on YouTube. So at that point, we were a trio. And then our drummer left, and then it was just two of us, and that doesn't really make sense. And so we found out that the drummer had a cousin that plays drums. So he joined our group, Vern. He joined our group, and we employed Ray, who plays congas,
Mm.
because at that time there wasn't really a whole lot of people playing congas, and I sort of like the feel of how Ray plays his congas, and that's
Mm.
when we became Kwabena Group. There's some
Mm.
music on YouTube that showcases all four of us. And people liked the idea of that style of jazz music in a Caribbean vibe mixed with funk, reggae, calypso, and there were even people from the United States that were listening to us, because I always tell them, you never know who's in the audience listening to you. And the guy came up to me and told me he taught at Florida, some school in Florida, and he's like,
Mm.
I really like this. I really like this. And, they just came to St. Paul for a little while. And the wife told him about the beer garden live music. So, being that he's a musician, he's a professor at some university, he
Mm.
came and he listened to us. But I didn't know he was a professor. And he
Mm.
listened to us and he listened to us. And we played for roughly about 4 hours that night. And at the end, he never, even towards the end, he never said anything. It was when we actually were packing up to go home.
Mm.
That's when he came behind me and said, listen, man, I love what you're doing, and so on and so forth. And I was like, yeah, we're trying to expand and go further. Now, since then, my bass player has left because he went to Full Sail University to start on his musical career. And I couldn't find a bass player, like him. And other bass players, Synchro is small. So we have to share musicians, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
You may think that, you're a musician, you got that locked in, but sometimes, and it's the same thing for me when I was out there in foreign. I played in different bands. I played in a rock band, I played in a salsa band, I played in a classical music group. Music
Mhm.
is music. I don't really care what it is. It could be polka. I really don't care. Whatever it is, we're gonna do. We're gonna do as long as you know what you're doing, because
Mm.
there's a lot of musicians who are so um, um, narrow-minded in their thinking. Like, I'm a reggae bass player, and that's all I'm gonna play. But if you're like me, that got to pay your rent or mortgage, or pay for your car or whatnot, you're not gonna care what music you do. You're just gonna play. So
Okay,
and
yeah.
those are the type of musicians I like dealing with, instead of the ones that only play this, or a gospel singer who only sings gospel. God gave you a gift to share with everybody. Why are
Mm.
you only singing for church people alone? Come
Mhm.
on, work with me. And that's how that song, Mystify My Love, came about, because I was working with Kendra at that
Mm.
time. So it's
So,
been a good ride for me in the past 10 years that I've been back home. Yeah.
so two of the four members of the band are gone, right?
Yeah, they sort of left the band, and right now it's just me alone.
Okay.
But
So you
we're able
rebuilding?
to come back. We're able to come back. It's just the time will come, because I walk the streets, I drive around, I'm sitting at restaurants, and people will come to me. Obviously, I don't know them, and they're like, "When you gonna bring the band back? When you bring the band back?" And I'm hoping if they see it, they're like, "Yeah, we can come back. We can come back." It's just that we'll just have to figure it out and figure out what we're gonna play, and we're in.
Okay.
That's the musicianship within us. It doesn't take us too long forever
Yeah.
and ever to
And,
learn.
and,
So,
and these guys were like high school students that you taught?
yes, they were high
Okay.
school students. So that goes to show I'm really good at what I'm doing. But not every student is going to rise to that level. Like I
Mhm.
said, a lot of spectators, they love music, but they're not going to rise that high. The ones that are reaching up to that level, yeah, you're going to see it in them.
Mhm.
They want to hear, what's that, what's this, and they
Mhm.
ask questions. When you see that as a teacher or professor or whatever it is, a mentor, tap into it. That's going to be a musician.
Okay.
They may not do it full time and professional like me, but they're gonna do it.
Yeah, they
They're
want to
gonna
go
do
to
it.
the next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about that I see on social media, I haven't seen it lately, is that you also play the organ in your church, right?
Yes. The organ is one of the instruments that I do play. I picked it up right after learning the piano, at least getting to the intermediate part of piano playing.
Mm.
Um, I am a member of St. John's Episcopal Church, and that's my family's church.
Mm,
We are Anglicans, Episcopalians, whatever you want to call it. And I've been playing this pipe organ since I was 10.
mm,
So obviously, I'm a rather short guy. So my legs couldn't really extend all the way to the pedal. So
mm.
I had to grow, wait some years and grow. And so now I'm older now. So I play the pipe organ and any kind of organ. And it's an extension of my learning of piano because you don't get to organ unless you learn piano.
Mm.
And that's what I do mainly on the weekends. So um, there's not, for the past organists before me, they weren't exactly very public outside of church setting
Church.
to talk about what they do and the music that they do. I do know that my teacher Lockwood Halcott, he passed on. He was one of those people that talked about the music, church music, and how it elevates your playing as a musician regardless of what background you come from,
Mm,
because you're playing all the time and you're reading music and you're listening and stuff like that. So I've come to that point where I'm very proficient enough to do that job. The thing about the organ, and I have to say, the organ, it's not exposed to everybody. And if you're not a church going type or even been in a church, you're not going to know what it is. And especially that particular type of organ, you're not going to know what it is because you don't go. So if you don't go, you're not going to know. You
mm.
only know keyboard organ, and that's a different thing. It may be similar, but pipe organ and keyboard organ is not the same.
What's
So,
different? What's the difference?
well, for first thing, if it's keyboard organ, you don't have any pedals. So you're just basing it upon the feel of the keyboard, and it's computerized.
Okay.
Um, and the pipe organ is manual, and it has some computer in it, but manual, and you really have to know what you're doing. You don't sit down at that instrument and don't know what to do. You will
Mm,
be intimidated because the sound is so great and it's so heavy, that you have to. It's like a beast. You have to control it
mm,
using your ears, your eyes, and your body. Because my hands are going, my legs are going, so it's a complete body experience. It's
mm,
not like a piano at all. Piano, you're just sitting there and you press pedals and you're moving your finger. But with the organ, your legs are going from one end to the other end. Your eyes, you're listening because you have to listen to what people are saying and stuff like that, or singing. And it's not an instrument for everybody, but it's there for everybody, if you
mm.
know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you do
So,
that every Sunday now?
huh? Yeah, I
You do
do
that
that
every
every Sunday.
Sunday? Okay.
And I've been doing that for a while now. Like I said, I started at 10. And by the time I went to college, I sort of put that down a little bit because there wasn't any. But by the time I finished undergrad, I picked it back up. And then, here I am doing it still. I
Mm,
would like to pass on that knowledge. And I'm saying this, to the greater St. Croix community, or maybe the
mm,
Virgin Islands if they want, other Virgin Islands. I would like to pass on that knowledge to someone that is very serious about music. But you know,
playing a church organ?
yeah, because
Okay.
here's the reason why I say that. There's only so much of us organists on the island, and
Mm,
there's more organs than us who can play
mm,
them. And churches always need that particular instrument to keep going. But the
mm,
problem is there's not enough people to play.
mm,
So it's just like what I was telling Kendall of our folk music, Kwelbe music. You know, if we don't find youngsters to get into that feel of that kind of music or any kinds of music, it will die with the practitioners who actually do it. And it's the
mm,
same thing with every career. Hence the reason why we always need lawyers, we always need doctors, we always need landscape artists, because we need somebody to cut our grass, or else this place is going to be in a jungle. So we
Yeah.
always need fresh people to come in, not people who are not dedicated, who are not driven, who don't have the confidence. We need people. And we were talking about that before the show started, of how I'm on the fence with how young people are learning, especially here in the Virgin Islands. It's not pleasing to me because when I grew up, and I'm sure it's the same thing for you, we were drilled into being the best because we were going to America to learn on that higher level. And it was always drilled into us that you got to be better than those guys up there. You got to be better. You got to know everything. And yes, we didn't know everything because we weren't exposed to everything. We don't have all those things down here. But to me now, it just seems like, you know, with learning now, and I'm really disappointed with it. It's like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, so what?
Mm.
And maybe society has made us that way. I mean, look at the highest person in the land. He's not exactly a smart person, but he made to be president. And there were others before him. So it sort of put me in that thinking that we teachers are not wrong. Don't put all the blame and say, oh, you're not teaching enough. We are teaching. But the problem is, young people of today are not the same as 20, 30, even 40 years ago. They see learning as much more of, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't, So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
got you. I got
Mhm.
you. Okay. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the music that you have out. So I see
Yes.
you put a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, one of the songs that I saw is called um, Fear Not My Child.
Yes. Yes.
With
Fear not
Lisa
my
Harris.
child. So Fear Not My Child is a track on my latest jazz fusion vibraphone album. And let me tell you, that album came out last year because I haven't done anything this year other than Dreamer's Dub. But the that album, Reborn Vibes Edition, um, it's sort of like a remix of my older stuff.
Mm,
I made a transition from being a producer of music with computer and keyboards and stuff like that and mixers, and I transitioned back into playing instruments. At that time, when I was much younger, I thought, computer music was all the rave, and it was.
mm,
But I felt that I was losing my touch on the instrument. So I can play a flute on a keyboard, but do I really know how to manipulate a flute or do the things that I want a flute to do on the keyboard? Not
mm,
really. So I had to get back to playing music with instruments, not computers. And I did 3 albums back then. They were early. After all this time, Journey Through and Tres. And if people find that, it's out there. So I took certain songs from those 3 albums and I remixed them. And this time I wanted to put, since I'm all about vibraphone now, I wanted to put the vibraphone out front so that people know, you know, I'm remixing my own music. I'm not taking anybody, I'm just remixing. And that's what
oh,
that album came from.
okay.
So Fear Not My Child features Lisa Harris and myself.
She's
And
local.
yeah, she's local.
Okay.
And she's a singer here on the island. And she did an awesome job. I described to her, usually when I get into the studio with musicians, I've known them for a while, maybe some years or some months. But even if it's a week, if they're in tune with what I am telling them I want them to do on my work, they'll get it.
Mm,
Lisa picked up on it really easy. For one, she has children. So the idea of the title, Fear Not My Child, is sort of like you're comforting your child to don't be afraid. So she has children. So that's an easy way to get her to understand it. And once I told her musically what I wanted to do, she did it very well. So I urge people to listen to Fear Not My Child featuring Lisa Harris. It's one of those modern up-tempo jazz songs, but it's not like 60s jazz. We're talking modern
Modern
jazz.
jazz, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other song here is Journey Ends.
Journey through, that
Journey
that
Ends.
and Journey Ends. So Journey Through is the beginning track of the Reborn album. And
Okay.
that's the one that it was sort of like my coming out in this way too. And
Okay, I got you.
I wanted to take that sort of, now let me give you a backstory behind it. I am a big fan of American hip hop music of the 80s and 90s. I am a big fan of Tribe Called Quest, Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, that era, Slick Rick, all of that. I'm a big fan of that era of hip hop. So it still lives within me. I have a friend, she's an artist, Renee.
Mhm.
And Renee and I would be driving, and we're still listening to 90s hip hop like it was the latest thing. But so all of that is still within me. And on top of all the stuff that I learned throughout the years, all of that is being put on that album and being taken from a time when I was listening to a certain way of music and expressing it now with the vibraphone on top. Journey Ends has my boy Kabaka on it and Nagasi. And I needed a rapper. And, I met him at Levels nightclub downtown. And we connected. And before you know it, I said less than 6 months, we connected again and we were in the studio and he pulled it off. And so that whole album is just the vibe because it is. You just have to listen to it with an open mind. It is not, I tell people all the time, I'm the type of musician that can play anything, any style of music. You just got to tell me what it is and what the feel is, and I'm going in. So that album, yeah, that is my ticket to the global world. So if people out there are listening, outside of the Virgin Islands, of course, and the Caribbean, yeah, my album Reborn Vibes Edition is something to listen to because you're not going to hear vibraphone music sounding like that coming out of America or even Europe. It's going to sound totally different. And that's the whole point of being a musician. You got to find your own niche. You got to find your own corner just to do music because there's so much music out there and there's so many artists. Yeah.
And I got another song here. It's called, I guess it's Subtle?
Subtle Hints.
Subtle Hints. Okay.
Yes. Subtle Hints is the...
I couldn't read my handwriting there. Subtle Hints.
Yes. Subtle Hints is the... Yeah. Yeah. Yoche, that's the first single that was released from the Reborn album. That's the premiere single. So Subtle Hints sounds like you're hearing jazz, but the undertone of it is reggaeton. The undertone of it is reggaeton. And some people are not going to figure that out, but you're hearing the saxophone, you're hearing the vibraphone, and then you hear that reggaeton beat behind it. And that's the whole point. You've got to do something different because there's so many people that are just trying to pigeonhole the vibraphone just like back in 1960 or back in 1970. And I don't want to do that anymore. This is why people like who just recently died, the one that sings my life, my life, my life in the sunshine. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah, I know the song.
Yeah, yeah. And I should know it. I should know. But anyway, um, if you follow his career, at the very beginning, he was doing bebop and all of that stuff. And then around in the 70s, he broke away from doing that and started doing more, introducing more funk into his music.
mm,
And and that's how he became a success at it. So I look at that and I said, yeah, it's not wrong to come from a background in classical and jazz and transition into making something different of it. Um, I am a Caribbean born man. I can't
mm,
strip that away from me. It's within me. But layered on top of all that Caribbeanness, it's there's classical, there's jazz, there's West African music that I love, there's Indian music, there's all these things that make me who I am today. So
mm.
I can't just strip away one thing just to satisfy a certain set of people and say, okay, you should only be a musician because you're a trained musician. You went to Berkeley, you did this, you did that, you got a master's degree and all. No, you're not going to tell me what to do. No one
Mm.
told Miles Davis what to do. He
Yeah,
started the same way. He started in bebop and hard bop, and then he transitioned into something else. And he's still considered one of the greatest
greatest.
trumpeters we ever have in our life. Now,
Yeah,
there are more coming up, but I ain't see anybody beat Miles yet. But
yeah. He's one of
so,
the greatest, man. He's one of the
yeah, he
greatest.
is. And it's the same thing with Bob Marley. All musicians have that point in their life where they started off. Bob, if you read the life of Bob, Bob started off with um, that 60s song, doo-wop thing. And
Yeah,
then he transitioned from that into, reggae. And he
it's a
started to
more
include,
modern
right.
reggae. Yeah,
And so musicians make that transition within their lives. Some don't because they're hardcore about doing that. But I'm starting to see even classical musicians taking classical pieces and turn them into jazz pieces. And
mm,
their audience has grown more than when they were,
yeah,
classical musicians.
yeah. I got you. And where can I find all this music?
So all this music is not printed in physical copy. I'm working on trying to get that done because I want people to have a physical copy. But with modern technology these days, everybody wants music quick.
Mm,
So all of this music is on the internet. All you have to just type in is just my name, Khadijo, and type in on YouTube and type in subtle hints or type in Reborn Vibes Edition, and you
mm,
will see all of this music up there because I make sure it's out there. Now, the business side of it, it's a racket, but eventually I'm moving to a point where I am going to be performing this music live as I do all the time. And because some people have told me you don't bring the vibraphone out enough. And the vibraphone is not like a flute. A
mm.
flute you can break down and put in your pocket and walk away. The vibraphone, you have to think about where it's going to go, how you're going to set it up, and how long. You don't bring something that big and only play two
Mm.
songs.
Yeah,
So eventually I'm working.
there's a
I've
whole
been in
logistical thing with that instrument.
right. You if you're gonna bring that thing out, you're gonna play. But right now things are a bit slow and synchronized, so I'm looking uh, outside of America into Europe, anywhere you want to hear Khadija music. I am available. Let's get on the phone, sit down, talk about it, and me and my band, we will be there.
Okay.
We will be there.
What about new music? You got anything coming out this year or next year or this year?
Uh,
This year's almost done.
yeah, the year is almost done. This year for 2025. I put out Dreamer's Dub, which is sort of like a dreamy reggae based jazz tune. Dreamer's Dub. It's out there on the internet as well. And
Mm,
then there is, for the DJs that like instrumental music, there is an instrumental part of it, which doesn't have the vibraphone in it. So people in radio stations can use it, and they have. Um, this year, I am working on a new song, and it is with a singer songwriter that is here on the island. I run into people that are attracted to me because I'm a musician, and they're like, "I want to work with you. I want to work with you." And this singer songwriter is Onekate, and we were working on a song that's called Destined Hearts. And if you're connected with me on Facebook and Instagram, I should tell you about that. If you're connected with me, I've done videos on it. It's been a bit of a pushback because we're still working out the kinks of the music. Lisa Harris is on that particular track as well. So this is Onekate's songwriting debut alongside with my musical gifts and vibraphone and stuff like that. So we're working on it. I am hoping to put it out before the year ends because I want to get this off of my platform right now and start working on other things. But those other things are more of doing a reggae jazz version of Gregory Isaac's music, and that to me, I'm beaming for that. Because Gregory Isaac, vibraphone, jazz, you don't hear that, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I'm looking at 2026 to do that. So those of you who wants to support me in that, get in touch with me. Let's see what we can do, because I want to do this one big, like Island Center big, if you want to put it that way. So
okay, I got you. Wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
congratulations. On that,
So that's coming for 2026. So yeah. So but this song, Destined Hearts, featuring Onekate as singer-songwriter and Lisa Harris as a singer, it should be out before the year ends.
Okay.
Yeah. So that will be two things that I've completed for the year, because when you put an album out, you constantly promoting it. It's not just promoted for 1 month, 6 months, 8 months. You're constantly doing it. And I'll probably promote that album for the rest of my life, as long as I'm able to do it, because that's what musicians do. We don't do it every day or every year. Some musicians can put out music every year. I can't. I have to meditate on this thing. And it has to come out right.
I got you, man.
Yeah.
Well, Khadijo, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure talking to you about my music, my life, and what I am doing as a native-born Crucian here on St. Croix. And for those that are listening to your podcast from all over the world, how far do you get people, like Australia? Have you got many Australian fans or New Zealand fans?
Some Australians, Brazil,
So
Atlanta.
Brazil and all those places.
Yeah, we're getting around, man. We're getting around. It's touching
Right.
everywhere.
Right. And that's how it is with me. I want to expose my music to as much people as I can. And by doing it physically and producing it and recording this music and putting it out there for the world, it brings attention to me, but it also brings attention to the vibraphone done in a different style.
I got you, man. All right.
Okay.
I guess
thank you for having me, man.
Kwabena. He is a high school music teacher.
Yeah.
He is a musician, and he also got his own LLC. I guess that's how the business part of what he's trying to do here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, man. Good luck. And
Thank you.
his music is on YouTube. What do you have to search for? What do you have to search for on YouTube?
Well, once you type in Khadijo Kwabena or Khadijo, things gonna pop up. Of course, there's other people who has my name as well, but you're looking for me. So where's the camera? Look at my face really good. Look at my face really good, and you will see. Just look for the guy with the glasses, and you'll know it's me. And you'll know.
All right, man.
All right,
man. Appreciate it. Real quick,
All right.
this is the HR Perspective Talk Show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Actually, with today's Monday, we did a special show on Monday. We got another show lined up tomorrow and Wednesday. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you, Khadijo, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, brother. All right. See you.
All right.